Hello everyone, how's it going? Welcome to my tier list video for patch 2.3b with the addition of Senna and Lucian. Before we get into the tier list, just want to say a big massive thank you for all the support. As always, it's appreciated. If you do like this content, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you like the video as well. But without further ado, let's head into the tier list. First up, we have the AD carry tier list. Obviously, we have Lucian and Senna in there, but we'll talk about them a bit later on. First up, we still have Kai'Sa sitting up there in the S plus tier. Nothing's really changed with Kai'Sa herself. She's still really strong, able to get her Q evolve quite quickly. Hopefully, I'm hoping that they actually change the Q evolve or the Q upgrade for Kai'Sa, because it just makes her really strong before that first dragon, which can be really annoying to play against at times. And obviously with her being super mobile, she can turn invisible as well. She's just one of the strongest and the safest AD carries out there as well. Then moving on down, we have Ezreal. Again, the same situation. Ezreal did get nerfed a little bit. That's why he's not in the S plus tier with Kai'Sa anymore. There was a change with Trinity Force, with the attack speed. There was a change to Champion as well, which Ezreal really liked taking because he's super safe. But he's still really strong, still really safe AD carry with the blink effect. He can still farm in lane really safely as well, just by sitting back and just using your first ability just to spam onto minions. And he can still do a lot of damage in team fights as well. There's been some other builds that have been creeping up now. You can go for Iceborne Gauntlet if you're against a lot of AD heavy champions on the enemy team. Iceborne Gauntlet is a slow, but you also get armor as well, and it still has that sheen effect. So you'll still do a little bit of extra damage. Bezrel's still sitting in a really nice spot, really strong. Zyra as well, same thing as well. Again, another safe AD carry that has her ultimate, well, pretty much available all the time. It's quite a short cooldown now. Does a lot of damage as well. Still really strong AD carry. Still my favorite AD carry. Actually, I'm not really too sure because the next AD carry might be my favorite as well. But still doing really well. Zyra at the moment in the meta. Can still push lanes really easily. Can get that pressure and laning phase. So then she's able to roam around into the Scuttle Crab. And then when it comes to the mid and late game, she has a few items. She can do a lot of damage with the Static Shiv with her crits as well. She's got her feathers to root enemies as well. So she just has a really nice kit in general. Now, this is probably going to be the longest part of the video. It's talking about Lucian and obviously Senna as well. Now, Lucian is really strong in my opinion. Honestly, Lucian can maybe even sit up here, to be fair, in the S tier. The reason why I believe Lucian is so strong, his laning phase is really strong. He can play very aggressive in lane. It seems like his base damage early on is quite high. You can poke down enemies with your first ability, and then you can use your double tap from your passive to just do a lot of damage in laning phase. He's also really safe as well with the dash. You just have to keep in mind that early game you might need to not use your dash aggressively, because it does have quite a lot of a long cooldown. But the later the game goes, the more items you get. Once you get that ability haste in, your dash can be on like maybe a 2-second cooldown if you do the full combo. So the combo is dash auto attack, W or Q auto attack, and then vice versa as well. So you get about 3 shots of your passive in, which is 6 attacks, which is 6 seconds. And then I think Lucian's cooldown at max rank is about like 10 seconds or something like that. So you can put that into consideration. And obviously it takes about 2-3 seconds for the combo as well. So in general, the E cooldown goes down to about 2 seconds. You can make that even lower if you want to go for Black Cleaver as well. But even going into the mid and the late game as well, when you're going for like this crit Lucian build, he still does a lot of damage and he is still really strong. Now moving on over to Varus. Varus is still really strong pick as well. You got 2 different builds for Varus. You have the AD lethality build, or you have the AP on hit build. You've been seeing the AP on hit build a little bit, but I still prefer the AD lethality version as well, with the summon Airy, being able to keep your distance, poke as well, especially during the laner phase. A poke is very obnoxious, but still really strong champion. Ultimate is really strong as well in team fights, especially in that first dragon fight. You can potentially root up to 5 enemies if the enemy teams all group together. So still really strong. Corki as well. Corki is a bit of a hard one because in EU, Corki doesn't really see that much play in in my opinion, like in terms of solo queue and in competitive. But in SEA, it's really, really strong. I've been playing Corki here and there every so often, and he is quite strong, but he does need a few items. He's a bit like, excuse me, he's a bit like Ezreal in a way, where Ezreal's not that strong in the early game. He needs about 2 or 3 items. It's the same with Corki as well. But I believe the good thing about Corki is that he has his package, which is his passive. So when Drake spawns at 4 minutes, you can go back to the base, get your package, and it's really, really influential in team fights. So you can, if you get like a really good package off on the enemy team, if you could do a lot of damage and get onto the enemy backline, you could do a lot of damage. And obviously this scales into obviously the mid and the late game as well. You can still get your package available for that second or even third Drake as well to, you know, make a good impact. But you do need a few items. You do need to wait and kind of, you know, scale up with Corki, but he's still really, really strong. Same with Jinx as well. Jinx does kind of need to scale as well. She can be very vulnerable in the laning phase, but Jinx with like Lulu, for example, very risky in terms of the laning phase because you might get dove a couple of times because you don't really have any safety tools or anything to really protect you in the laning phase. But the main thing is just, you know, playing safe, keep making sure that you farm up. You can use your rockets to farm up as well from range if you need to. But once Jinx gets 3 items, once she gets her Infinity Edge, Aruna's Hurricane, Rapid Fire Cannon, Mortal Reminder, these items, with a Lulu or with a Janna or with any Enchanter support, she can 1v9 the game for sure. And this is probably like, if it was like a duo queue pick, and if it was like, say, Lulu with Jinx as well, Jinx would easily move up to here, like very, very easily move up to there. So yeah, she's still really, really strong, still really, really powerful. And yeah, she can still carry games for sure. But like I said, not the best solo queue pick, but more in terms of like a duo queue pick. Draven's a bit of a tough one. I could probably move Draven maybe up here. He is still really, really strong, but he is really, really hard to play. I wouldn't really recommend playing Draven because he does put you in awkward positions sometimes with catching your axes and everything, making sure that you can actually, you know, do a lot of damage in the team fights with your first ability. Obviously, he got a buff recently with his W and his E, his third ability. So he now gets more movement speed, and his third ability is on cooldown less. So it has buffed him up. Obviously, it has probably boosted up his win rate as well, but he's still quite hard to play. Like I said, you kind of have to understand Draven's limits. You do have to play very aggressive in the early game as well, which sometimes can work, sometimes doesn't work either. But you do need to get early kills. You do need to get an early advantage to get your passive off, to get the extra gold. But yeah, maybe Draven could be sitting up here, but I think Draven is down here with the rest of these AD carries. But this whole like A and B tier can honestly flip around as much as you want. Some people might think that some champions are A tier, some champions are B tier. It's quite hard at the moment to try and kind of balance the two. I would say that Lucian and Varus could probably move from S and A, and then Corki and Jinx can move from A to B, and then anyone from B really could go up to A except for maybe Senna, but we'll talk about her in a second. Moving on, we have Tristana. Tristana, again, with Lulu is really, really strong. The same with Jinx. They are hyper carries. They're not supposed to be really, really strong in the early game, and she's not really that strong in the early game unless she gets her ultimate. Her ultimate does a lot of base damage. Obviously, that on top of maybe if you have a BF sword or something else early on to do a lot of damage. There has been like a, you could say, new Tristana build where you go BF sword first item into Russian Static Shiv. Static Shiv is really strong on Wild Rift because it does a lot of damage, and obviously the passive comes off really, really quickly when you're moving around. So it's kind of bumped her up in popularity a little bit, but I still don't think she's as strong as the AD carries above. Jinx, like I said, is a lot easier to play. Corki you can scale up as well, and a bit of a safer AD carry. And obviously Varus, in my opinion, just does more damage. But Tristana, again, is still really, really strong. You know, can work really, really well with a Lulu, and you can still carry with Tristana, but she is really, really hard to play as well, trying to make sure you bomb the right target with your third ability and being able to auto attack that same target so you can get the W reset and you can get more damage with your third ability. It can be hard at times, but if you practice, she can be really, really strong. Moving on, we have Jhin. Jin's not received any buffs or nerfs. He's just creeping down the list ever so slightly. You got all these AD carries that are getting buffed at the moment. Vayne's got buffed, Tristana got buffed, Draven got buffed. Obviously Senna's been added to the game as well, and Jhin is just slowly creeping down the list, and it's really hard to kind of see. But obviously Jhin got nerfed a few patches ago. He can still, I think, do really, really well. It's just the problem with Jhin is that he needs a bit of an early advantage, kind of similar to Draven as well. So then if you get an early advantage, you can get them early items and kind of be able to scale into like the mid and the late game. But he doesn't really do that much damage. Obviously, he's a bit vulnerable when he uses force shot as well, so you have to be very careful at times playing Jhin. Champion got nerfed as well, which it was really, really strong on Jhin to go like champion because he was quite safe and he was quite aggressive in the laning phase. But yeah, little bit of a tough spot for Jhin. Hopefully he can receive some buffs quite soon, maybe in the next 2.4 patch, which is hopefully coming out soon. Moving on, we have Vayne. Now, Vayne obviously got a buff as well, which was quite nice. Vayne, again, can move into A, can stay into B. Like I said, it's really hard to kind of know where she sits in terms of like A and B, to be honest, because it really depends on the support, the matchup, the enemy teams, etc. So this is more of like a standard solo queue, like what I recommend to obviously give a try. Problem with Vayne is that she still struggles a lot in the laning phase. She's one of the shortest ranged AD carries at the moment. I think she might actually have the shortest range. I think Lucian and Kai'Sa are fairly close as well in terms of range. But she does struggle when farming in the laning phase. But if you do scale into the late game, she can probably become the best duelist and the best AD carry in the game. Some of you may have seen my Vayne gameplay in a previous video. If you haven't, go and check that out. Really, really fun champion to play, to be honest. And yeah, she did, again, it's just a laning phase that's kind of hitting her at the moment, because if she can be a lot safer in the laning phase, and if she doesn't die as often, and if you don't die as often with Vayne in laning phase, and if you can get a few items under your belt, a bit similar to Jinx in a way, you could do a lot of damage and you could definitely carry. But the reason why Jinx in A and Vayne's in B is because Jinx is just easier to play. You can just do a lot of more damage as well, and can kind of spread damage in a team fight, whereas Vayne is more of like a duelist. And obviously Wild Rift is a more team fight oriented game at the moment, with all the dragons, Rift Heralds, Barons, etc. And it obviously being a fast paced game as well. There's a lot of teams that want to, you know, group and team fight before the game is pretty much over. Now, moving on to Senna ADC. Now, this is an interesting one. I don't think Senna ADC is as strong as support. I think she's really, really strong as support. The reason being is that I have tried out Senna ADC a few times. I'll test it out a bit more as well. But it just doesn't seem like Senna gets a lot of souls when she's farming minions. Now, obviously, Riot Games themselves have not added the percentages of the soul rate in the actual game, because obviously that will influence whether people play her support or AD carry. It's kind of the same, I think, in PC League of Legends as well, but I think the data got, you know, gotten into, and people were starting to realize after a while that, you know, the percentages were out and everything like that as well. So yeah, I mean, when you're farming, it feels like you don't really get a lot of souls, but when you're not farming, you seem to get more souls. And obviously with Senna, she is kind of strong in the early game, don't get me wrong. You got her root, you got her long range as well. But the main purpose of Senna is to scale into the late game and collect them souls. Once you get, you know, 25, 50, 75, even 100 souls, you will get that extra range, you'll get that extra damage, the extra critical strike chance as well. And she can do a lot of damage when you scale up into the mid and the late game. But like I said, I just still prefer the support Senna, because I believe you can carry a lot more with support Senna. Obviously, support Senna has like a tanky build as well, has a lot of slows, a lot of utility, a lot of crowd control as well. But AD carry Senna is very vulnerable. You normally go for like a mana immune into full crit, so you don't really go for this tanky sort of Senna build. I might try tank Senna maybe in the AD carry role and see how that goes. But again, because you're not collecting any souls, you're not really doing a lot of damage, it's kind of hard. So yeah, that's why I believe Senna sits in the B tier. The main thing is the whole soul thing, because that's what Senna's kit mainly evolves around, is her collecting souls and being able to collect and poke down champions to collect as many souls as possible. So then she's able to obviously scale into mid and late game and do a lot of damage. Ash and Miss Fortune are just down there, but both these champions, it's really hard at the moment for them to do anything. Ash herself, she doesn't really do a lot of damage. She's more of a crowd control sort of utility-based AD carry with all her slows, her ultimate, etc. But she doesn't really do that much. Honestly, I'd probably prefer Ash as a support than an AD carry right now. She doesn't really do a lot of damage. She hasn't been buffed as well, which is kind of surprising. I don't really know why. Yeah, she's just sitting at the bottom at the moment. And kind of same with Miss Fortune. When Miss Fortune got nerfed, I think it's about 4 patches ago now, she got nerfed a little bit. Blade of Rune Kid got nerfed. Mortal Reminder got nerfed. Again, she's another one that's just slowly fallen down the list over time. And her kit and just the way the meta is at the moment, it's really hard for Miss Fortune to actually do anything. Obviously, Miss Fortune and Ash don't have a lot of movement. They don't have any dashes or anything like that, so it's really easy for assassins to jump onto them. Obviously, Miss Fortune has a really vulnerable ultimate as well. It's really good in team fights if you get a wombo combo with like Miss Fortune, Malphite, Miss Fortune, and Mumu, etc. But yeah, in terms of, you know, you being able to carry with Miss Fortune in terms of a solo queue game, she's definitely the worst, obviously down with Ash. Now here comes the interesting part. Here comes the support tier list. Now, as you can see, Senna is a lot higher in this tier list than an AD carry Senna, and I will explain why. Firstly, let's talk about Brom. Now, before I put Brom in the S+ tier, but I think with the addition of Senna, Senna does really well in some melee support. It's basically free soul farm and basically free poke the whole laning phase, and Brom can't really do much. So the addition of Senna, in my opinion, has kind of brought Brom down into the S tier with Janna and with Senna. I think them three are the best supports out there, probably the best in terms of being able to carry. Senna is probably best in terms of a carry support, but you can still carry with Brom and Janna as well for sure. Maybe even some of the supports as below, like Lux. But in terms of, you know, base stats, in terms of build, in terms of what they offer, these three are the best. Again, Brom has a really, really nice passive. If you can get it off, it's really nice. Obviously, with the addition of Lucian as well, Brom Lucian is probably up there with one of the best bot lane duos in the game. So if you do get Brom Lucian bot lane, you can be really, really aggressive if the Brom lands a passive stack onto the like the enemy AD carry, for example. You can dash in with Lucian, use your passive as a double shot, and it actually works as 2 stacks for the Brom passive. So all you have to do is dash forward, auto attack twice, one more auto attack, the Brom passive's off. So, and that doesn't include if Brom auto attacks once or anything like that as well. So again, Lucian Brom, very, very nice bot lane combo. Brom's still really, really strong, has his shield, can peel really well as well with his ultimate. Obviously gives the AD carry armor and magic resist as well with his second ability. Still a really, really nice champion. Same with Janna as well. Janna's peeling is really, really strong. Her laning phase is really strong as well. Janna obviously does really well into Brom as well as a range versus melee matchup. But like the Janna and Senna, in terms of like who wins that, is kind of a skill matchup. It's very, I would say, split 50-50 between the two. That's why like Janna's not above Senna or anything like that. Like these two are very even in terms of what they offer and their skill set. Like I said, Senna's probably more of a carry support, but obviously Janna you can do really well as well. More of like maybe a duo AD carry / support pick, but really, really strong champion. Again, she has a lot of zoning tools with her ultimate. She has a tornado. She can poke in lane with her second ability, and she has her shield as well, which is really good for AD carries. Again, works really well with these hyper carry AD carries, Jinx, Tristana, and Vayne, and it can work with aggressive supports, AD carry, in lane as well. Like Lucian, if you shield the Lucian, he can dash forward and he can kind of be more aggressive because he has that extra AD and extra shield. But again, still a really, really nice, really, really nice support to have. Now let's talk Senna. Now Senna has definitely, you know, given support a new pick and a new fun pick, to say that as well. Senna is a really, really fun pick, really, really strong pick as support. I did do a guide with Excel for both Senna and Lucian, which I'll leave down in the description if you want to check them out. But Senna is a really, really strong support pick. You go for this tank support Senna build, Grasping the Undying with Frozen Mallet, Black Cleaver as well. And it's all about, you know, the armor shred. It's all about you know, being able to crowd control with the slows, with your root as well. And it's all about stacking them souls. As mentioned, stacking souls as support, it seems a lot easier and quicker than stacking souls with AD carry. Obviously, you don't have to worry about farming minions at all. You can focus on poking down the enemies using your first ability and using your auto attack to get souls, get them missed from the champions. But also, it seems like the drop rate of the souls is a lot better on support Senna. You could try and get up to like 75 souls. Once you reach about, I would say 75 souls, this is where Senna can be really, really strong. Happens around sometimes even like the 10 to 15 minute mark, normally around there. And with your build as well, you can be really, really tanky. You can do a lot of damage. You can also shield and heal your team as well at the same time. And you also got like an invisibility / cloak spell with your third ability as well, which is really, really strong. As I said, I explained all of this in a guide with Excel. If you want to look into further details in terms of the build, how to place and etc., then go and check that out. I'll leave it again down in the description. Moving on to A tier, again, A and B tier for support as well. I feel like the meta at the moment is really good if I'm saying these things constantly, but A and B tier can obviously be swapped. Like, any of these champions can be swapped depending on the situation. C tier is kind of, yeah, for Pega tier. But the A and B tier, again, really can be influential in terms of, you know, what your AD carry is. Are you playing duo queue? Are you playing solo queue? Are you playing with a hyper carry, aggressive AD carry? Who are you against? Are you against squishies? Are you against a ranged champion? Etc, etc. There's a lot of things to take into consideration. Like I said, tier lists are not the be all and end all for a champion. You can still carry with obviously any champion in the game. Lux is still really, really strong in my opinion. Again, more of a carry support like Senna, could do a lot of damage. Obviously has the big massive shields as well from her second ability. Could be really, really aggressive in lane as well, and does well against these melee supports like Rakan, Alistar, and Brom. But if she does get caught, she is very, very squishy, so just be careful of that. And in the late game as well, if you hit your light binding, your first ability, you can get a good pick on the enemy champions, and her ultimate does a lot of damage. And your shields with Harmonic Echo, with Ardent Sensor, you can shield the whole team and basically heal the whole team as well, which is really, really nice. Again, same with Nami, does really, really well into most range matchups, to be honest, and melee matchups, because Nami, you're able to heal yourself and deal damage to the enemy champion as well. So most of the time, it's pretty decent. Again, has a really great ultimate as well, Zone ultimate with the wave, really, really strong. Bubble as well, especially during laning phase, if you can hit a bubble. They get crowd controlled for such quite a long time, and has a nice third ability as well that can kind of help the AD carry. Alistar, very aggressive support, very all-in, very in-your-face support. If you do want to be aggressive, if you do want to be the front line, if you do want to make them big plays, and Alistar's a great support for you. Really, really tanky. Obviously, some of his items did get nerfed. Dead Man's Plate, to be precise, for one of them, got nerfed quite a bit. But overall, it's still really, really strong pick. You can make a lot of plays with Alistar, and you can get a lot of picks. And again, in team fights, you can be a big influence as well. So that's why he's still up there as one of the strong picks. Same with Rakan as well. Very in your face, very aggressive support, but a very mobile support as well. You can dash in, try and get a pick, and if it doesn't work out, you can dash out with your third ability, or you can use your ultimate, dash in as well. You know, very, very mobile support, does very well obviously with Xayah. If it was Xayah and Rakan, Rakan would probably move up to S tier if you are paired with Xayah. But yeah, he doesn't really do well in terms of tankiness. He's not the most tanky support, like Alistar, for example. But again, it kind of works hand in hand because he is very mobile. So if he was tanky and mobile at the same time, be kind of broken. So yeah, even though he's a bit squishy, he is very mobile, so you're able to dash around and do a lot for your team. So in general, it's really, really nice. Galio, kind of similar to Alistar in a way, can be a very tanky support. You can build a full AP as well if you want to do quite a lot of damage. His kit in general is just very, very strong. You know, you got a big, massive AoE taunt. You have your ultimate that can influence fights a lot and can kind of make or break a team fight as well, and kind of peel for your AD carry. There's a lot of damage in terms of the laning phase with the poke. You know, you got your dash as well that can also help you escape. So in general, really, really nice support. Now moving on to Lulu. Now, as mentioned in the AD carry one, some of the AD carries with Lulu is a lot stronger than others. Honestly, if you have like Jinx Lulu, Vayne Lulu or Tristana Lulu, these three picks in general, you can, you know, be probably A or even S tier, I would say. But in general, as a solo queue tier list, and in general as a solo queue pick in terms of carrying, Lulu doesn't really offer that much. It's more relying on your AD carry to kind of carry the game, to do a lot of damage, to play aggressive in lane when you shield him, etc. Things like that as well. And obviously, you rely on your team if you ever ultimate someone as well. But in general, she's still a really, really strong pick. She can poke in the laning phase. Her shields do get really, really strong, and her ultimate does get really strong as well, especially when it goes into the late game. But yeah, still pretty strong pick. Still really, really nice. Leona's a tough one. Now, Leona's been buffed and buffed and buffed, and to be honest, can probably sit in the A tier. The reason why I put her in the B tier is that she's very single target focused. She doesn't really offer a lot in terms of... I mean, she can offer a lot in team fights, don't get me wrong. If you get like one pick off in a team fight or something like that, or if you get a pick just before a team fight on a crucial target, if you use your ultimate and if you land a combo onto a crucial target, then she could be really, really strong. But when it comes to these big, massive team fights, and when you're trying to pull for your AD carry, or when you're trying to, you know, be that engage, it's not as strong as, say, like an Alistar or a Rakan or even a Galio, for example. All these three champions have big, massive AoE abilities that can, you know, impact a team fight. Whereas Leona is more single target. It's more to do with her laning phase. She wants to be able to be aggressive in lane, dash onto a target, being able to use your ultimate to make a play on a single target, and be more of a pick champion. So that's why she is down in the B tier. Seraphine, again, kind of similar to Lulu in a way. You're kind of reliant on your team, but can work similar to Lux as well. She can do a lot of damage as well at the same time. She just doesn't offer as much as the Lux in terms of laning phase. But when it comes to team fights, if you do get a really good Seraphine ultimate off on the enemy team, it can be very influential into a team fight. But she just, again, she doesn't really do that much in terms of kind of the same as Lulu. You're kind of, again, relying on your team. You can try and get like a big, massive, insane ultimate off, but that's about it, really, to be fair, with Seraphine. She's more, in my opinion, of a mid lane pick because of her wave clear, because of her damage potential if you go full AP. But obviously, that doesn't really work most of the time as a support. Moving on to C tier, all these three champions don't really offer that much. If this was a pro play, sort of competitive tier list, Sona would probably move up to even like A tier, most likely. Same with Seraphine as well. Seraphine, Sona's a really strong bot lane in terms of pro play, because pro play is a bit more laid back. It's not as aggressive, it's not as crazy, so you can farm up into the mid and the late game until them team fights. But yeah, Sona, it should, like, most of the time is, you know, okay. She does struggle in laner phase. You do need to build the mana immune because her mana is really, really low. But again, if you do scale it into the mid and the late game, and if you're not too far behind with Sona, which most of the time you will be because you can't really offer much in laner phase, you can keep spamming all your abilities with mana immune. Not mana immune, sorry, Muramana. I think, I can't think of the names. I'm getting confused between Muramana and mana immune. I don't think it's mana immune. The AP version of the tier list. You guys know what I mean. The AP version of the tier list obviously gives you that big massive shield as well. That item, I can't think for the life of me what item that is. But if you build that and then you build support items like Harmonic Echo, like Ardent Sensor, once you get them 3 items with Sona, once you get into the mid game and once you get probably level 10, she can be really, really strong. She can basically sit on the back line, keep healing, dealing damage, keep giving that movement speed. But it's getting to that point of the game which is a struggle for Sona, in my opinion. Blitzcrank doesn't offer anything. This champion, Mozilla, I'm sorry. I know you're sitting here right now. You're probably thinking, Stuart, why have you put Blitzcrank C tier? My Blitzcrank is absolutely insane. I carried you a bunch of times. Yes, true, you did. Sometimes, maybe. Sometimes it was maybe me. But in terms of solo queue pick, can't really do that much, to be fair. You can hook and you can do... This is the thing. You can hook someone and you can make a difference. But if you do miss that hook, if you know, you can't really do that much in laning phase because you're a melee champion. If you do land a hook, which most people know how to play against Blitzcrank now, so they know to play a bit more passive when the hook is available, and then play aggressive once the hook's on cooldown, because it is such a long cooldown. Because people know how to play against it now, it's really, really hard to try and make plays with Blitzcrank and try and carry with Blitzcrank. Yeah, that's why he's down there. And then obviously Soraka as well. She just offers heals and that's about it, really, to be fair. She doesn't really offer too much. Again, you can poke in lane in phase. You can do things with Soraka that can help. If you look around the mini map, you can use your ultimate to try and help people in team fights. If you do stay back, if you do build warmogs, then you can heal a lot of targets, and the healing does get strong. But again, it's more reliant on your team, and this is more of a solo carry, like solo tier lists, like solo queue tier list, I should say. But yeah, that's pretty much anything. I've talked for a long time. Dead on boom, half an hour right now. So yeah, I've spoken a long time. Maybe not dead on half an hour, but yeah, you know what I mean. I've spoken for a long time. This is my tier list in general. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. And yeah, Lucian, Senna, both really fun to play. I will be streaming today as well, twitch.tv/itsstuart, same as my YouTube. Again, link in the description. Hopefully you all tune into that. I'm going to try and do a Lucian/Senna only stream. And yeah, thank you all for tuning into the tier list. I appreciate it. Again, leave your thoughts down in the comments. Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to like the channel as always. And I will see you all very, very soon. Take care. Peace out.